Hello everyone, Stefan from General Warfare here for part 2 of the Commander Legends Top Commander videos. Now, last week we went through all the monocolor commanders from white, green, red, black, and blue. And now we're going to all do the multicolor commanders. My personal picks on the top commanders for each one of these. Now, bear in mind, again, if you haven't seen my last video, go check it out here, but this is just a personal opinion list, so if you don't see your favorite commanders on here, don't get discouraged. There's going to probably be somewhere on somebody else's list, but these are my personal picks. And without further ado, we have 14 commanders to go through, so let's get started right away. Our first commander is Arami of the Deadtide. She is a 1/4 white, blue, and black for a legendary merfolk wizard, and she has tapped and exile cards from your graveyard equal to the number of opponents you have. Target creature card in your graveyard gains Encore until end of turn. The Encore cost is equal to the mana cost. So, Encore is a new mechanic in Commander Legends, and for those who haven't already seen what Encore does, I'll explain it very quickly. So in the text itself, it reads, exile the creature card and pay for its mana cost. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn. If able, they gain haste. Sacrifice them at the end of the next end step. Activate this only as an sorcery. So this is basically like Myriad. So whenever it attacks, it creates a token copy to tap and attacking. So for Encore, you're exiling cards out of your graveyard. It'll create a token copy of the creature you're exiling for each opponent you have. So let's just say it's a 4-player game, and you're doing this to exile a creature card out of your graveyard. Let's just say you're exiling, for the Encore cost, you're going to be getting rid of a Skithrix. And so you're going to have, and you have 3 other players. You have 3 Skithrixes. You're gonna have 3 of them on the field, tapped, and they each have haste. So you're gonna be attacking each opponent with a giant flying Infecti Dragon. Arami, I find when I first saw them on the spoiler list, I immediately thought this was gonna be a very fun commander to play. Not only does their ability lend to a lot of fun interaction to graveyard recursion, but you can also do the effect at instant speed. So let's just say somebody's trying to return to nature a card you're trying to get out of your graveyard, or something to that effect. You can activate Arami's ability, exile that card, and you can target one of your creatures in your graveyard, given you have a creature to target. If not, this effect doesn't work. However, you can just exile. You can exile 3 cards, or however many cards you have in that moment. Exile them, target a creature that'll gain Encore until end of turn, and then you'll nullify the return to nature effect. I don't know. To me, I think Arami's going to have a very, very big presence in the commander scene. There's going to be a lot of players going to be playing. There's a lot of players who are already playing Reanimator, and there's a lot of players who are already playing graveyard interaction stuff. There's a lot of Muldrotha players. There's I think there used to be a lot of Kethis players. Let me know if I'm wrong on that. I'm pretty sure I'm not 100% spot on, but I'm sure there was still a big variety when Kethis first came out. Now it's dying down a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong here. But Arami, I think for a 1/4, I think you're gonna get a lot of great interaction. You're gonna get a lot of very quick plays and a lot of quick creatures coming out. So one of the best ways to build this is self-mill. So you're gonna be going through your entire deck, pitching cards from your deck into your graveyard, so that way you have a lot of fodder for Arami to come out and to activate their ability immediately. Let's just say you're going to be doing that for, turn 4, given you have an accelerator, mana accelerator or not. For me, this is a great Dimir card. This is a great Dimir commander, and I expect to see a lot of commanders or a lot of people playing this commander. All right, so the next creature we have on our list is Nimbus Un Trickster. It's a 1/6 for 3 blue and black. Again, it's another Dimir commander, and this is a legendary fairy knight with flash, flying, and whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So the stats on this are quite weird. A 1/6 for 5. Not something you see very often in Commander, but I digress. Nonetheless, it has Flash and Flying, and well, Flash is one of my favorite abilities, considering you want fast interaction when you're in Commander, because there's going to be a lot of tricky stuff your opponent's going to be doing, so the faster you can get your own stuff on the field, the less response time other people have to interact with it, and basically you can set up your board immediately before your turn comes around. You don't need to rely on your turn just to make the big plays. That being said, with Nimbus, you're going to have... So basically, it's either a lot of instants on other people's turns, or you're going to have a lot of flash cards you're going to be playing out on other people's turns with this. So that way you can activate Nimbus's ability. You're going to be basically, you get to look at one, look at the top two, pick, put one in your hand, put one in your graveyard. That way you basically can recur some stuff out of it. A lot of instances, you're going to have a lot of flash creatures. You're going to have a lot of interaction with Nimbus, or else it doesn't work as well. To me personally, I think this is a fun commander to build. But if it would be between Nimbus and Arami, I definitely pick Arami first. Not doubting the power level of Nimbus at all. All right, so we're getting into Gruul territory. This is one of my favorite color combinations ever. I am definitely a Gruul player, and you can take a look. You can definitely see that in some of the commanders I build. So some of my favorite commanders that I built were Amarath, Locust of Rage, and Barbaric Most Enraged. Two very prominent Gruul commanders, and this might be one I might build too. This is Tuya Bearclaw. It is a 2/2, 1 and Gruul, so 1 red and a green for a legendary human warrior. Whenever Tuya Bearclaw attacks, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among other creatures you control. So basically, you're going to want to, this deck relies on big creatures. You want like creatures with power at least 6+. So you want those Rampaging Baloths. You want those Avenger of Zendikars on there. Well, okay, Avenger is not 6. You want Galtas in there. You want anything with 6 power or more in those colors. You're gonna want something that's big. You want some even if you have pump abilities, pump spells before the end of turn. So even if you run Giant Growth in there, I think it'll still activate Tuya as long as you're using Giant Growth right before the combat step. That being said, again, Tuya seems like a very fun commander. Even I might build it for a future deck in General Warfare, or if we do a stream one day, I might try to build this as a fun little commander. But yeah, like I said, Gruul is one of my favorite colors, and between this one and Hans, I definitely would pick Tuya because it seems a little bit more reliable than Hans would be in terms of competitive power level and in terms of how big you can hit with it. All right, so we're getting into Orzob with Thalis, Reverent Medium. It's a 3/4 for 3 white and black, so 3 in Orzob. For a legendary human cleric, at the beginning of each end step, create X/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of tokens you created this turn. That wording there is key. Now the Command Zone already touched on this, and if you haven't noticed already from my last video, I am a very avid listener of the Command Zone podcast. They have definitely helped me build some of my decks in the recently, and in the later years. Game Nights has also helped me in introducing General Warfare to the public. That being said, that they have made a great point about this card, saying that it's not a matter of just creatures, it's tokens in general. So you can be creating clue tokens, you can be creating creature tokens, you can be creating any kind of token you really want to create. It's not a matter of specifically what kind of token it is. It's just the volume of tokens that you make, and that way, at the end step, Thalis basically triggers, and you get more spirits for it. So let's just say you have. I'm not going to use the same examples they did. Let's say you're getting clue tokens from Tireless Tracker. It's definitely not a good example in this case because Tyrus Tracker is in green and Thales is in white and green. White and black, my apologies. But let's just say for in this instance here, you're getting investigation tokens, you're getting clue tokens. Let's just say you have like at least 3 tokens on the field at this point. Thales is going to trigger at the end step and create those 3 spirits for each one of those tokens. So again, it's quantity over the quality in this case. So I can definitely see Thales being more of I don't see this as a competitive build. I see this more as probably high power to mid power, like casual competitive. I would definitely put this under. All right, so we're moving on to Is It? And yes, it is. Bad joke out of the way. We're heading into Is It territory with Zara, Renegade Recruiter. She is a 4/3 for 3 and Is It, so 3 blue and red for a legendary human pirate with flying, and whenever Zara Renegade Recruiter attacks, look at the defending player's hand. You may put a creature card from it onto the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking that player or planeswalker they control. Return that creature to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. This is another card I very much considered building upon release. Zara seems like a very strong commander in this regard, considering on the attack step, you basically get to get a free creature from another opponent without having to spend any of your extra mana. Now, what you do with that creature afterwards, you can definitely sack it and make sure it never goes back to that opponent's hand. You can definitely copy it so that you have your own iteration of that creature. You could sack the creature afterwards for long-term monetary value for yourself, but long-term disadvantage for your opponent if that's a very big creature in their deck. With Zara, you're basically stealing creatures, so it wouldn't surprise me to see other cards in that deck that you can gain control of other creatures. You have a lot you can do with this card. Like, even if you have like a Strionic Resonator or something that copies the trigger ability on Zara, basically you could be taking 2 creatures for the price of 1. And that, in that case, you're basically getting 2 creatures on the field. You can copy them. What I would personally suggest if people are building Zara, put Flame Shadow Conjuring in this deck. That card is sweet, because that when Zara's ability triggers, you take the creature, Flame Shadow Conjuring's ability will trigger, and then you could pay a red to make a copy of that creature. Trust me, if you guys are building it, that would be my #1 suggestion to put in a Zara deck. And this is, again, another card I am very much considering building as a physical commander deck and playing on General Warfare when restrictions are lifted or relaxed a little bit. Now we're going to get into Golgari territory with Belbay, Corrupted Observer. Now, Belbay is a 2/2 for Golgari, so black and green. It's just the cost, black and green. So 2 mana for a legendary zombie elf. At the beginning of each player's post-combat made phase, that player adds colorless and colorless for each of your opponents who lost life this turn, and damage causes loss of life. So this seems like a Pestilence build to me. And by Pestilence, I mean the actual card. So basically you pay a black and you deal a damage to everything. So that includes creatures and opponents. I would definitely see the Belbay doing something of that sort in that deck. So that basically you're getting extra mana from each opponent. So you cast this turn 2 easily. Turn 3, you have either Pestilence or something that comes out here, maybe Plague Stitcher that can deal damage to opponents. That way you're getting 6 mana, or even better, you have something come in turn 3 that automatically deals 3 damage to each opponent, or damage to each opponent. That way you're getting 3 colorless to add to your pool. That way you can spend it on your mana accelerators, your mana rocks, any artifacts you have. That way you're increasing your value in the long run when it's only turn 4, whereas your opponents will be stuck behind on turn 4, and they'll need to be playing catch up to yourself. Belbay seems like a really fun commander to build as either a Pestilence build, or if you want, you can also make this a group hug build, but I don't really see that happening or going super well. I definitely see this as a Pestilence build. And now we're going to get to our first of 2 of the commanders that are not in the set directly, but they come in as the commander decks, the 2 sets. I already pre-ordered my copies. Definitely going to be having those come in at some point. And the first one is Willath, Soul of Steel. So it's 2/2 for a 1 and Boros, so red, 1 red and white for a legendary human warrior with trample, and whenever Willath, Soul of Steel attacks, draw a card for each aura and equipment attached to it. Now, honestly, Boros hasn't been a very exciting color for many reasons. One, it's just very generic because it's all combat damage. For most of them, like I think the only 3 exceptions that I personally find are big exceptions to that rule are Firesong, Sunspeaker, Feather, and Zerda. So those 3 are the biggest exceptions to Boros that do not heavily rely on damage or combat damage. Rather, they have different interactive abilities with each other. Willath, I don't see that in that regard. It's just a big attacker that you just basically pile on auras and equipments to. I don't even find this as amazing. I personally find Valduk is much more interesting in this regard, and that's mono red. Valduk is basically very, very similar to Willath. So Valduk is basically 3 mana. It's a 3/2 instead of a 2/2, and instead of just drawing cards, you're basically getting a lot of attackers. You're getting 3/1 elementals with haste each turn for each aura and equipment attached to Valduk. I don't know. To me personally, but between the 2, between this one and the next card I'm going to talk about, I find this is the least interesting. But change my mind, please. Change my mind about Boros. All right, so the next card we're going to talk about is the second one of the 2 commander decks. Spoiled ones? Spoilers? Spoiled ones? Who knows? And so this is AC, Tyrant of Gyre Strait. It is a 5/5 for 4 and Simic, so 4 green-blue for a legendary serpent. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. So basically, it's exploration and it's Tatiova on basically Jordmungandr. Jordmungandr is the world serpent in Norse mythology. Basically, look at this thing. It's basically a giant world snake, world serpent. I hope they prove me wrong, and this is just a precursor to hopefully the next set, which is a Norse-based, Northern mythology-based set. As for the spoilers, what we just seen from Kaya being on the box set. But enough of that for now. We're going to talk about this card. So, for it being a 6 mana 5/5 with extra land drops and extra card advantage for those land drops, it's great. You can't go wrong with it. So it's basically Tatiova supersized. I definitely would build this deck. And besides, green gets you there much faster. You don't even need a lot of mana rocks for this deck. Blue is definitely good for countering stuff. It's definitely good for even copying abilities, copying effects. I've seen a few of them before. And besides, who doesn't want a giant snake on their side? It's pretty rad, if you ask me. That being said, it's definitely going to be a very fun commander to build, and I can see why it's at such a high price point right now. All right, so we are over the halfway point here, and this is the second half of the video. We are going to get right into it with our first 3-color commander, and it's one of legend. It's Mr. Larry Niven, or Mr. Nevinral, Urborg Tyrant, as he is more formally called. It is a 3/6 for 3 and Esper, so 3 white, blue, black for a legendary zombie wizard with hexproof from artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. Whenever Nevinral Urborg Tyrant enters the battlefield, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token for each creature that died this turn. And whenever Nevinral dies, you may pay 1. When you do, destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. So We've already seen his disc appear so many times in our commander history. Nevinral's disc has been around since the dawn of Magic, from what I can tell, and now we get to finally see Mr. Larry Niven himself come to the battlefield. And so I can definitely see where a lot of the people's builds are going to be going around. This is going to be definitely a Gifted or Immortality deck, something that can bring back Nevinral every time he blows himself up. He also has hexproof from artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, so basically he can't get O-ringed, he can't get imprisoned in the moon, he can't get exiled by any creature that comes on the field, he can't even get bounced by creatures. Yeah, this is definitely a strong commander. The only way to really interact with Nevinral is if you cast a sorcery or an instant on him. And even then, like, he has his original disc ability, so he can blow up any artifact and creature and enchantment. And whenever he enters the battlefield, so he creates a black 2/2 zombie for each creature that died this turn. So every time that he it's every creature. It's not specific to every non-token creature. Every creature. So if you have the Gift of Immortality, the card I was mentioning to you guys before, and you keep cycling the Nevinral trigger, so that where he blows up everything before the Gift of Immortality goes away. I think that's how the stack works. Remind me or fill me in the comment section below if it's different. Every time you cycle it, basically he'll come back on the field with more zombies. So you get infinite zombies, you'll get infinite Nevinral, and basically you'll have a gigantic army by the end of the game. I can definitely see where the build's going into this, and considering Esper is one of those scary color combinations, you're going to get a lot of interaction. You're going to get a lot of like very scary Staxy builds. I can definitely see with Nevinral. I can definitely see a lot of different, even if you're doing recursion builds, I could definitely see that with this. I definitely see Nevinral as a very flexible commander to build around. And now we're gonna get to the commander I'm so excited to build around. I'm not the only one. I don't think that's gonna be excited to build this, but me personally, this is the one I'm most excited to build. It is Obeka, Brute Chronologist. It is a 3/4 for 1 and Grixis, so 1 blue, black, and red for legendary Ogre Wizard, and it has tap 2, and the player whose turn it is may end the turn. So to go into more briefing, even on the card, it says exile all spells and abilities from the stack. The player whose turn it is discards down to their maximum hand size. Damage wears off, and this turn and until end of turn effects end. So I'm not the first person to speak about this. I'm not going to be the last person to speak on this card. This card is going to be a fantastic commander, and with this ability, it's the first of its kind. Who knows if it's going to be the one of its kind, only one of its kind. With that being said, like, you have the option to either save yourself or save an opponent from dying. So let's just say your opponent is at 3 life and somebody wants to cast a lightning bolt on them at the end of their turn. You have the option to save them by ending the turn or giving them the option to end their turn before they die. If they take that option, they basically live an extra turn. If not, well, obviously they're dead from a lightning bolt. But that being said, they have the option to you have the option to end players' turns. Most people are not going to do it if you're going to do it to like a fetch land, like Evolving Wilds, or when they're searching, be like, hey, you want to end the turn? No, let me go fetch. With that being said, Obeka is definitely going to be the first commander I build around. I'm definitely going to have a list up when it's ready. And I am so excited to play around this commander. We're gonna get to another fun one. This is Yurlok of Scorched Thresh. It is a 4/4 for 1 and Jund, so 1 black, red, and green for a legendary Viashino Shaman with Vigilance. A player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life, and as 1 and tap, each player adds Jund, so each player adds black, red, and green to their mana pool. You basically make an infinite combo with this. I don't remember what the combo is exactly. I think it's something with mana reflections and an untap ability, like sort of the power runes or whatever. Keep in mind, I'm not 100% sure what it is. So basically, you're playing Urlock, and then you're just making infinite mana, and then phases end, you kill everybody. I wouldn't build a deck around that specific ability. I would definitely make a not a stacks-based build, but something to where like damage hurts over time. So I would definitely do something like I would have like War's Toll on the field. I'd have Desolation in that deck. I would have stuff like Root Maze. Definitely see a lot of like slowing your opponents down, making it miserable for your opponents to play Magic, because that's the kind of Magic I like to play. I'm just a gigantic fun person to be around when it comes to playing Magic. I'm always the fun one who loves to play Magic with who people love to play Magic with, obviously. But nonetheless, Urlock I think is going to be either a card that is going to on release is either going to go up and shoot up in price, or it's going to stay at the exact same price point. If it does shoot up, it's only because of the infinite combo. If not, then I don't see this going anywhere above $5. And we're down to the last 3 commanders, and we're going to start with another one I am looking forward to building. It's Amarath the Lustrous. It is a 6/6 for 3 and Bat. So 3 green, white, and blue for a legendary dragon with flying, and whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it shares a card type with that permanent, you may reveal that card and put it into your hand. So there's so many ways you can build Amarath. You basically build this at like however you want to. You can basically make this as an artifact build. You can make this as an enchantment build, creature build, ramp, any kind of build you want. It's permanent. It's not specific to anything. It's not limiting you to anything. So you can basically play all your rampant grows, you can play your harrows, get all your lands on the field, and then anytime another permanent enters the battlefield, if you have a land come in, you look at the top, and if it's another land, you put it in your hand. If it's another creature that enters the battlefield, if it's another creature on the top of your your deck, put it into your hand. You can build this commander in any way you see fit. I definitely would like to build this as either a Lands Matter deck or as a like ETB style deck. I would definitely see that. It wouldn't be as strong as let's just say Rune would be or Tulane would be, but I would build Amarath in a fun little way. I like this card a lot, and I'm definitely expecting a fun deck to come out of this. So the penultimate card on this list is in Temur and is Averna, the Chaos Bloom. It is a 4/2 for Temur, so red, blue, and green. For legendary elemental shaman, as you cascade, you may put a land card from among the exiled cards onto the battlefield tapped. I mentioned before the command zone already did most of the multicolored cards before. And there was one thing I noticed when they talked about this. I think they didn't see this as a viable commander. Me personally, this is my opinion. I certainly disagree with them. I would definitely build this deck. I find if you're adding a lot of Cascade in your deck and you're making Averna worth it, then you're basically going to be going the extra mile with Averna. So anytime you Cascade, you get to put an extra land from that Cascade pile onto the battlefield tap. So you're basically ramping yourself an extra land every time you Cascade, depending on how many times you hit it. But even still, I would definitely play this deck. I would definitely build this deck. I've had aspirations to build a deck like this, a Cascade build, but considering most of our leagues are within $50 ranges and within our $50 price range, and Maelstrom Wanderer takes up roughly around a fifth of the deck price. It's really hard to build around, and Averna gives us that lucrative building point to where it's not consuming so much of your budget for just your commander. That way you can play all the good Cascade cards. And yeah, you're basically doing this. You're going to be playing a lot of ramp ice, I would imagine. You're going to be playing... Well, it'll be mainly a focus of creatures or a lot of Cascade stuff. So yeah, I would definitely try to build this deck. We come to our last card. And now, I think this is just an absolutely funny one. I by no means think this is competitive viable. I don't think this is CDH viable. But this is the very first deck I'm going to build once I get all the cards for it. It's Arcelos, Lagoon Mystic. It's Oogway. It's a 2/4 for 1 and Sultai, so 1 black, green, and blue. It's a legendary turtle shaman, and as long as Arcelos is tapped, other permanents enter the battlefield tapped. As long as Arcelos is untapped, other permanents enter the battlefield untapped. What can I say? Like I said before, I'm the stacks player. I enjoy bringing pain to my opponents when I see fit, and Arcelos allows me to do that. With Arcelos, you're going to be playing a lot of tapping abilities, tap and untap abilities. I definitely, especially when you're going to have Arcelos come on your turn, or it comes to your turn from your opponent's end step, you just untap Arcelos, so that way you can get all your creatures, all your lands, everything come into play untapped. This works so well with the bounce lands, the ones that come in with like 2 extra mana. So if you're playing a Civic Growth Chamber, you're gonna basically, that's gonna come into play untapped, when the card title or the card name actually sets, it's going to come into play tapped. That's just extra advantage for yourself. You're going to get a lot of cards that are going to come into play. You're going to have a lot of cards that are going to come into play untapped, and at the end of turn, you just tap Arcelos. Everything for your opponents come into play tapped. It's just funny. I love it. I love Oogway. I love Arcelos. I'm definitely building this the minute I get my cards in. And that'll do it for today's video. And this will wrap up our 2-week set top picks for the commanders in Commander Legends. This is today's release day, so if you can, please go support your local LGS or wherever you get all your cards. Please buy your sealed products. Please buy your singles. That's going to help everybody out. I know we can't really go into our stores right now because of what's going on in the world, but once the world relaxes, once this whole pandemic changes, once this whole pandemic reduces, and whatever normal or new normal that we're going to be in, I'm sure your LGS is going to be waiting for you guys to come back and to play more Magic in their stores. And so I want to just say, if you guys liked the content that you've been seeing so far with WarTalk, and please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon to be notified of every single video that comes out of this channel. And if you have suggestions for future episodes, if you have suggestions for even deck builds, or any suggestions for any new General Warfare videos whenever they may be coming out, please consider commenting down below. Trust me, I read every single one of them, and they bring me nothing but joy to see everybody commenting on what they feel what they aspire to see on this channel. Trust me, I will read every single one of your comments. And if you want to stay in touch with all of us here at General Warfare, you could follow us on our socials. We have a Facebook and a new Instagram account. And we also have a Twitter account. We're more active on Facebook and Facebook and Instagram rather. But that being said, once again, thank you so much. It's release day for Commander Legends. Please pick up what you can. Game on, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, everybody.